Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k mordianglory video, and today guys we are going to be taking a look at the Imperial Navy breaches. So the breaches were released for Kill Team, but GW in a nice move has actually given them some Warhammer 40k rules as well, and that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. And look, credit where credit's due, well done Games Workshop. I really like this trend of you releasing more rules, these little minor factions. It really fleshes out 40k, allows people who want to collect those little unique units and be able to use them in more than one game to do so, and encourages players like me who are mostly focused on Warhammer 40k to pick them up and maybe try them out for a game or two. Overall, I just think it's a really good move by Games Workshop. But without further ado, with that being said, let's dive straight into the analysis of this unit. How useful are they in Warhammer 40k, and what battlefield role are they likely to take up? So the Navy breaches are a 10-man squad. They come with 9 Navis armsmen and 1 Navis sergeant at arms. Each model has got a movement of 6 inches, a weapon skill of 4+, a ballistic skill of 4+, strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound. The regular armsmen have 1 attack and the sergeant has 2 attacks. The regular armsmen have a leadership of 6 and the sergeant has a leadership of 7. And they all have a armor save of 4+. A fairly standard guardsman-like profile with the inclusion of a little bit of extra armor there. Now, in terms of war gear, 1 Navis armsman model is equipped with a Navis las volley. You have to take it. And 1 Navis armsman model is equipped with a Navis heavy shotgun and endurance shield. Again, those aren't options. Those are things that the squad comes with as standard. And then every other model, including the sergeant, is equipped with a Navis shotgun. So let's take a look at those stats now. So the Navis shotgun is actually a better shotgun than what you're going to find in the regular old Imperial Guard Codex. In fact, this shotgun has kind of been brought into line with how other shotguns are now working in Warhammer 40k. So it's got an 18-inch range rather than a 12-inch range like the normal shotgun. It's assault 2. It's just a standard strength 4. The shotgun in the main Guard Codex is strength 3. If you get in half range, it's strength 4. But they've just decided to cut all that kind of nonsense out. So it's Navis shotgun, 18-inch range, assault 2, strength 4, AP dash, damage 1. That's a much more improved profile. It's not a great weapon. It's like, an 18-inch range bolt gun essentially, but it's pretty cool. You then have the Navis heavy shotgun, which is also an 18-inch range. It's also strength 4, AP dash, damage 1, but it does get 4 shots instead. So it's actually more like a rapid fire shotgun, a bit more like an AA-12 rather than your standard sort of pump action shotgun. And then you've got that support weapon, which is the Navis las volley, which has got a 24-inch range, heavy 4, strength 6, AP mas 1, damage 1, and no other abilities. Now, looking over the Navis las volley, I can't help but think that that might be a bit of a sneak preview, a little bit of a hint to what the multi-laser profile could look like for the main Guard Codex. That would be a big improvement for the multi-laser. It would get an extra shot and it would get an extra AP. The 24-inch range might be limited to just the Navis las volley. It would be strange to see multi-laser go from a 36-inch range down to 24-inch range, but if it does, it's not the end of the world. I'd happily take that 24-inch range if it meant that I got the extra shot and the extra AP. But like I said, I think more than likely what they're going to do is keep the multi-laser at 36-inch range, give it that strength 6, AP minus 1, and give it the extra shot as well. Now, in terms of other war gear options, the Navis Sergeant at Arms Navis Shotgun can be replaced with an auto pistol and chainsword, or a bolt pistol and power sword. I think that there is some temptation to give him the bolt pistol and power sword. I wouldn't bother with the auto pistol and chainsword, but overall I'm not actually sure if taking the bolt pistol and power sword is a good move. Look, I've used a lot of Imperial Guard sergeants with plasma pistol and power sword, and those power swords have pretty much never done anything. And whilst it's tempting to go, hey, but that power sword's free, go for it, what I would say is, if I had the option of giving my sergeants in my guard squads right now las guns or plasma pistol and power sword, I'd pick the las gun every single time, because the plasma pistol rarely does anything, the power sword never does anything, and I would rather have another main weapon system for my guardsmen, more long-range shots. So for me, I'm actually thinking, in comparison to this with the Navy breaches, I would rather my sergeant could just have a standard Navis shotgun. It makes firing the squad much quicker, and it also means that my sergeant can operate at the same distance as everyone else. It means that the effective range of the squad is actually 18 inches, rather than having to get one of you dudes within a 12-inch range or even in combat. And let's be honest, These guys aren't very good in close combat. They're just guardsmen at the end of the day. You want them to be blasting away with their shotguns. So whilst I think there's a temptation for that power sword, I think keep him with the shotgun. Moving on to the other Wargear options, the las volley can be replaced with either a melter gun or a plasma gun. This is actually kind of an interesting choice because I think the Navis las volley is a good weapon, but AP -1 in an Arm of Contempt meta is a bit whereas actually being able to give them a gun which could do something for only 5 points, I think is actually a pretty good choice. For me, I'd probably go with that plasma gun, again, because there's no point in getting up close and personal with shotguns. There's no benefit to doing it anymore, not like with the old shotguns where you got an extra pip of strength. So I would say actually go for the plasma gun. If I had to pick between the Navis las volley and the plasma gun, I think there's a really good chance I'm going to pay for that plasma gun. It's only a 5-point upgrade. You've already gone as far as you're going to be taking the Imperial Navy breaches anyway. They're not that point sufficient anyway. Trying to make them point sufficient at this point by taking a Navis las volley just seems to be a waste of time. So for me, I'd probably get them that plasma gun so that they can actually have a shot that's going to do something at the range that they want to be at. Other Wargear options you have is one of the armsmen could replace his shotgun with an auto pistol and a power axe, and another one of the armsmen can replace his shotgun with an auto pistol and a chain fist. Now this really starts gearing the squad towards close combat, but overall you're only going to be getting one attack out of each one of those special weapons. So one attack with the power axe, one attack with the chain fist. Sure, you could get 2 attacks with the power sword and your sergeant, but you're really gearing the squad towards close combat, whereas they're going to get more attacks more often from a better range using their shotgun. So overall, I think that it's kind of cool that you can upgrade them to have a proper close combat loadout. I mean, you could think about it, you could have a sergeant with a power sword, a guy with a power axe, a guy with a chain fist, run around a guy with a melter gun. It's all going to start looking very close combat, very effective. There's one other Wargear option you can give them, which is you can actually just equip one of the arms, and it doesn't need to replace any of his weapons. You can just take it with a demolition charge, frag grenades, and smoke grenades. Of course, you have to pay for that demolition upgrade, and it is a 10-point upgrade for the demolition charge. But overall, that means you have a squad that can get really up close and personal, do quite a bit of damage at range, use a melter gun, use a demolition charge, and then charge in and try and get some more close combat attack. And to be totally honest, that loadout does sound really cool, and it does sound very fitting for these Navy breaches. They are meant to be getting up close and personal, clearing the enemy out, getting in amongst them, hitting them with fire axes, all that kind of cool stuff. However, I would say it is more of a fun loadout than a necessarily competitive loadout. At the end of the day, guys, no matter how many combat upgrades you throw onto these people, they are only guardsmen. And that is something you're going to have to be aware of. Now, you can improve their odds both with shooting and in combat by using the Rogue Trader, because the Rogue Trader has an ability that allows you to give this squad a +1 to hit. It's any time that squad makes attack, both ranged or close combat, you can give it +1 to hit. So there is some play there, but I think when it comes to close combat, just the sheer lack of attacks that this squad gets really does limit its close combat potential. What I would really like to see is for these guys to get some way of improving their attacks. I think if you could have an ability where if you load the squad up with close combat, they get a special rule called get in amongst them or breach and clear or something like that, and when you charge with them they get +1 attack. That would be a really cool way to sort of make them work a bit better and make them also a bit more fun when it comes to that close combat loadout. I just have this feeling that without those extra attacks, those 4 close combat attacks are actually worth it down. The rest of them just being shotgun butts essentially aren't really going to do very much. For me, how I see the competitive loadout for this squad is I would take them with all the shotguns and then have one guy with a plasma gun. That brings you in at about 115 points. Now, this squad does have a couple of really cool Wargear abilities. So that Endurance Shield, the bearer has a 5+ invulnerable save, and in addition, you get to add 1 to armor saving throws made for the bearer. That means that the guy with the big shield, he might only have 1 wound, but he is on a 3+ armor save with a 5+ invulnerable save. If you then put this squad in cover, that guy is going to be on a 2+ save, which is actually pretty good. You can then combine that with the fact that these guys have an ability called Void Armor. It's like their Void suits are fully sealed, pressurized suits designed for being able to fight and be enjoyable in ship-to-ship action. And so the Void Armor basically is Armor of Contempt. Each time an attack is allocated to a model in this unit, the armor penetration characteristic of that attack is worsened by 1. So whilst these guys seem kind of fragile, just carapace armor guardsmen on the surface, thanks to that endurance shield guy, you can actually make them kind of tanky. Combine that with the fact that the guy that you have to pay for the demolition charge also comes with some smoke grenades. That means that you get access to the smoke screen stratagem, which means that this squad can be -1 to hit if you spend a CP on it. It becomes surprisingly tanky. I mean, 2+ save, -1 AP, -1 to hit. That's actually kind of difficult to remove. Of course, it is only on one guy, so the moment you lose the endurance shield, you're going to go down to a 3+ save, -1 to hit, -1 AP, but it still makes for a surprisingly tanky squad. Now, they also have a couple of abilities that we've seen on the Rogue Trader and Voidsman datasheet. So, for example, they have the Agents of the Imperium keyword, and they also have the Shipborne Personnel rule, which means that if your army's Battle Forces unit cannot be used as a compulsory selection in detachment unless that detachment is a Navis Imperialis detachment. I have talked about the problem with this rule in the Rogue Trader video, where I pointed out the fact that you can't basically get a Navis Imperialis attachment because of the weird ruling that GW's put in, which I think is a real shame, because these Navis armies could be so cool. I mean, if you just get rid of that thing with the Rogue Trader, so you can take it as a compulsory HQ choice, and you get rid of shipboard personnel, so you can just take them as compulsory HQ choice, it doesn't really matter. If you could just make it so that you could just get them as proper Navis Imperialis attachments, that would be fantastic. I've just got in my head this image of just having this big infantry army that's just made up of just like rogue traders and full battalions of voidsmen and breaches. Is that competitive? Hell no. Is that cool? Is that an army that I want to make a battle report with? Is that an army I want to take to a tournament and have people come up to me and go, whoa dude, that is a cool army. Do I care if I go 0-5 when I'm running a goddamn Navy Breacher army? Of course not. I'm going to turn up dressed like a policeman and start saying, Breacher and clear, get down the ground, stop resisting. I'm going to do that if you let me do that, Games Workshop. So I really think that there's such a potential for this squad to be really cool, and such a potential for there to be a full Navy army, and for that to be just epic. So Games Workshop, if you're listening, please make that happen, because right now, you make me sad. And speaking of things that makes me sad, I think what really lets this squad down is its points cost. For this squad, you are paying 110 points base. If you want to give them a demolition charge and smoke grenades, that's another 10 points. If you want to give them either that plasma gun or that melter gun, you're looking at another 5 points. If you took a decked out squad of these guys, you're looking at 125 points. They're basically 11 points a model. And realistically, they are just not worth that. I mean, what you've got to ask yourself is this: would you rather take this squad or a squad of Sisters of Battle? Because they are the same points, yet Sisters come with power armor, Sisters come with better ballistic skill, okay? Sisters come with armor of contempt. Yeah, these guys avoid armor, so it's basically the same thing, but the point is that Sisters come with just better ballistic skill and better armor save to boot, and better weapon options, and yet these guys are the same cost them. It just, to me, doesn't make sense. Realistically, I think these guys should be pointed the same as Scions. If you compare their profile to a Scion profile, they've got the same armor save. They've actually got a worse ballistic skill, but the Rogue Trader can kind of make them have the same ballistic skill, same number of attacks, same stats across the board. These guys would have armor of contempt. Scions don't have armor of contempt. Scions have arguably got much better guns than these guys, so it kind of balances out. Realistically, these guys should be 9 points a model, and the armsmen that we looked at in the previous video should be 7 or 8 points a model, because they are basically guys just with las guns, not 10 points a model. So yeah, GW, again, if you're listening, these guys definitely need to be 2 points cheaper, and so do the armsmen. That would actually make them very, very usable, not over the top, not broken in any way, shape or form. It would just make them actually usable in a competitive environment. I mean, not to labour the point too strongly, but if you take a fully decked out squad of one of these guys, it costs about 125 points, and then you compare that to a fully decked out squad of Scions, which is going to cost you 130 points, the Scions are going to wipe the floor with the Breachers every single time. The Scions are going to wipe the floor with a lot of stuff every single time. A fully decked out squad of Scions comes with a plasma pistol, a power sword, a Voxcaster, and 4 special weapons, either plasma guns or melter guns, or hotshot volley guns. I mean, it's just, there is no comparison. The Scions can deep strike, so they can actually get up the board. Another big problem with these guys is they can't get at the board. They can't go in transports or anything like that. They just have to walk up the board. So I think for me, these guys really need to be cheaper. The breaches really need to be a couple of points cheaper. Like I said, I don't want to labour the point, but when you compare them to Scions, both squads fully decked out, it just becomes kind of laughable. I think another thing which really holds them back is the fixed squad size as well. If you could make it so that they were 4 or 5 man squads and they were a lot cheaper, I think you'd start seeing factions like Custodes pick them up in a similar role that we talked about for the Voidsmen, because they could be a cheap squad that could sit on an objective in cover with that endurance shield. That makes them really difficult for your opponents, like pick them off. You know, if you're a guard player trying to pick those off with mortars, it's going to take you a while to do it. And so I think that makes them actually in contention with the Voidsmen, and that would be really, really good. But as it is, having to spend 110 points on them, not having that flexibility, I think just makes it just not really a viable choice. They're a very cool choice. They are some of the coolest models that Games Workshop has released, and I'm sure they're very effective in Kill Team. But honestly, when it comes to 40k, there are just better options out there. You want better screening, you want better anti-chaff units out there. You've just got guardsmen for a lot of people. If you want something that could just go in there, smash the entire area, you've got Scions. For guard players, these guys aren't really worth it. For other Imperial factions, they're just too expensive. So my final thoughts on these guys is that they're incredibly cool. They have some very flavorful rules, and that I think they could be made very usable if they were just a couple of points cheaper per model. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think that these Navy breaches are actually pretty good? Would you take them in your army? Is there something that I've missed? Let me know down in that comment section. If you enjoyed today's video, then think about giving it a like. And if you want to see more unit reviews and more content like this, then please subscribe to the channel to never miss an episode. If you've really enjoyed today's video and you want to see more content like this, then please consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. It's thanks to my channel members I'm now able to do Mordian Glory full time, which is great. I can get more of these unit reviews done, and I can get them out quicker as well. So if you want to see stuff like that, consider becoming a channel member or Patreon. And I just want to take a moment to say a big thank you to the latest members and patrons. So huge thank you to Travis Wyckoff, Boris the Conqueror, Colin Ford, Grimnar, Pretax Foil, Born Not to Run, Wayne Catlin, Bonsai Kitty Gaming, Dead Tone, Samuel Martin, Alastrom Aurelius, Mark Flanagan, Ernest Brown, Estelle Lear, Dakota Pfeiffer, Stephen Payne, Fictit Google, and J.A. Burnside. Thank you guys for becoming channel members. Thank you for doing your part. And I also want to say a big thank you to Moonprune, 700th Black Templar, Waiting for Something to Happen, Nick Hooper, Leo King Art, Alex Hines, and Kadia4 for becoming patrons. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your ongoing Patreon support. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to say a huge thank you to my top tier Patreon supporters. These guys are the War Masters, and they have truly gone above and beyond the Call of Duty when it comes to supporting my channel. So a massive thank you, and a 007 down in the comment section for Navy Veteran, Philip French, Ross Miller, Tekwal, Alex Dengal, John Stubbs, Nicholas Walsh, Swordfish Trombone, Diesel Fox, Tom Sutton, and of course, Sly Varney, the one-man Super Chat and Army. Massive thank you to all of you guys. Your ongoing support truly makes a huge difference. And quite frankly, I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again, guys. It's life-changing, so thank you. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.